So, this is the Park City Plasma Bomb edition. I'm going to show you where we're at. We're at SR32 and Brown Canyon Road. And here in just a second, I'm going to take you. See, there's Brown Canyon Road and SR32. That's the power pole we were just at. I'm going to go back to here in just a second. Take you down this row of poles, the green posts, and down the other direction. If you can see, the sign down there says Piowa Oakley Camas. And I'm going to tell you a little story about my stepdad who was working in this area last year. Around the time this all happened, he jumped out of his, I'm not sure if he was in his work truck, front end loader, or a company truck, but he jumped out and he put out a fire, and the guys bought him a plastic fire hat and made fun of him for the rest of the day. He jumped out of his truck, whichever machine it was, and put out a fire with shovel and dirt, and the guys at work bought him a plastic fireman hat and made fun of him the rest of the day for it. I'm going to show you how those fires pop up, and I'm going to show you right where a couple of them are. Particularly, you're going to see some real bizarre burn patterns. Notice the bottom of this post. But that's just the beginning of it. I'm going to go show you the ones that really went all the way, and then you're going to see the ones that went halfway and know what it is you're looking at. So this one burnt all the way up, and there's a few more did the same thing. This phone pole did the same thing at the bottom. The one we started at is right over there where the trucks are. That's the one with the deep burn in it that we started this video at. This pole has similar stuff. But you come look at this one, you'll see that we're talking about something besides fire. I'll find you plenty more that did the same thing. But the weird thing is, it's here and there. It's not 4 or 5 here and 4 or 5 there. It's one here and a row of nothing. Clear down. This is the first one that did this. I walked from where those guys are clear over to here. And there's one here. And these others started to do similar things. But I'm going to take and show you some more. And I'm going to show you how it runs the underground fiber optic cable. And I'm going to show you that almost every phone pole in town has the same thing all over it. Speckles. But you don't really know that that's what you're looking at until you've seen the absolute proof positive stuff. Once you've seen that, you can look at the stuff that is more questionable and know that there's no question. See that little bit of burn on the outside? I'm going to show you a couple little tiny sticks right in the middle of nowhere that explain how my father jumped out and put out a fire that popped up right out of the ground. And instead of realizing the implications of this, that any one of those dummies at work could be walking along and a fire pop up under their feet, they buy him a plastic fire hat and laugh at him the rest of the day. Why? For the same reason I've said we do everything, because we believe it'll make us feel better. Let's go find some more of these. So there's the trucks. There's the one that we just looked at. And in between, you can see these do have some at the bottom, but I'm going to find you the really intense ones, like this one. We'll go check it out. You can see the line between the burn and the unburn is so unnatural. And then you get little tiny spots like this that are just as burned, but such an isolated spot. And another one here and here. And I'm going to show you a lot more, but I just came over to show you this one. How does it burn that hot without burning these weeds right next to it? I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to find a bunch of little tiny sticks on the ground that did the same thing with weeds right next to them. Because the wood is denser, it draws more electricity and leaves the woods and leaves alone. This is ambient plasma in the air everywhere when they hit you with the plasma bomb. And then once the ionized atmosphere is charged, they can use these directed energy weapons to send single shots like they did 18 landed on the bridge in Spanish Fork River Park. 18 on one bridge. They're pretty accurate. So now there's the same guy, and I'm gonna take you across the street here, and you're gonna see that they're radiated. There is a underground fiber optic cable that runs the ground right here. I'm gonna show you a few of the signs that say warning, underground fiber optic cable. But you're gonna see it runs the ground right here, and it's like there's a halo of radiation running along that fiber optic tube. And it creates a tube around it of radiation that burns the underside, and only on this side, and only to a nice golden brown, like it microwaved your hot dog just right, along this fence. This is that same fence. There's not a whole lot of sign around here. I came up to this pole and looked on the back side. Not sure where it paused, but this has this little hole burnt right in it, right next to these weeds, along with that spot at the bottom. And that's just that pole right there. So there goes our trucks off in the distance. They were kind of working as a landmark. That one's flipping a Yui. But over here, the farthest pole is where we started. This one's got, the farthest pole is where we started, where there's a deep embedded burn. What I want to show you here is that's the one that's missing that we showed you is clear burned off. There's a few more along the bottom, and I want to show you how occasionally they all have it moderately, and a few more that have it severely. Sorry, I was paying attention to something else. But you can see the burn along the, where are we at? There we are. The burn along the bottom here and here. I'm gonna go get a little closer. But I just wanted to kind of pan around and show you that it's so sporadic. Like I said, that first stretch, there's 50 poles untouched before that one that's completely before this one. None of the ones before it have it, so this stuff goes sporadically. See, this one's got it worse than this one, but this one's got it worse than that. Let's go check it out. And here's where it really gets weird. You see the unburned strip within the highly burned strip on each side? Fire don't do that. Again, the line between burned and unburned is so there is no phase transition between hot, medium, and cold. It just goes from hot to cold. But the rest of the tree is also hot too. You'll see the discoloration pretty much serves as an indicator that the same thing that caused this burning is also causing this coloration. So when I show you this coloration, but it doesn't quite have that much charred wood, you can now know that it's the same thing. Because this is the ambient, radiant plasma. As you can see, all these in the background, none of them are touched. None of them have any burn at the bottom. And where it decides to come up through is kind of random, but they can direct it. Such as that ranch the other day where I showed you they've got a dead deer on the ranch, and their ranch was hit particularly hard compared to everything around it. So it can basically take the charged atmosphere and direct all that energy that's already in the atmosphere wherever they want. During the time period when it's so charged, my dad's running around watching fires pop up out of the ground, putting them out with a shovel. Somehow we're able to walk around in those conditions and somehow not even be affected by it. But there's so much radiant, ionized energy in the air, fires are literally popping up out of the ground. I'm gonna go show you some of those. So there's that one. Here's the one next to it. Got some pretty neat burn signature. There you go. It doesn't have the depth to it, but it's got the straight line burn. Sometimes it helps focus. Anyway. Notice this little knot in the middle. Like I've said on all the others, the circular knot in the middle where the vine of the grain of the wood actually brings the energy up through. There we go. And that's why there's an unburned circle around it, but a black circle right in the middle, because the energy comes up from the ground through the veins of the grain of the wood, which is densest in a knot or in a branch where there's a new branch going to come through. And unlike a regular fire, we know knots are the hardest part of the wood. They're the hardest to cut and they're the hardest to burn, but in these cases, they are the part that burns first. They are the part that burns hottest because they are the densest. And it is the same for the reason the wood will light up when the leaves and weeds don't. It's attracting electricity from the ground. This is dense enough to attract the electricity to burn. This isn't. That's just some bizarre looking burn, I don't know. I'll just leave that. But then you'll notice like some have it, some don't. Notice this one, the little marker stick got it, and the big post next to it didn't. It's almost hard to explain rhyme and reason, but they know how to make that rhyme and reason end up right on your property. They know how to direct it, even if I don't know how to explain when and where and how it decides. But I can show you, just like Robert Otay says, I don't know why half my fence burned and half didn't. I can show you plenty of examples where there's two side by side. One of them took all of the energy, the other one took zero. That is explainable through the thermodynamics of electricity that I have no idea what I'm even talking about at that point. But people who do can explain why when all the energy goes up one, it grounds over here on this fence post and leaves that one alone. Anyway, moving on. Notice the golden brown stripe up the front of these posts. What I'm going to show you here in a minute has the same golden brown stripe along the bottom here of each post. And as you'll see, I'll show you other examples of the telephone poles way up in the air that have a cross brace of wood, a cross brace of 2x4s that burned in a similar way, where you can tell they didn't. I'll probably wait till the sun gets on the other side to give you the best of the rest of the lighting on this. Okay. You'll recognize a lot of this. This one's got it real bad. Yeah. The speckled burn pattern. Okay. So that's right here next to those. And that's the one across the street, but I'm gonna take you down the road just a little further. Here's a lone soldier, but that's really not a prime example, so I'll move on down the road. But the one right next to it took nothing, and the burn is clear down into the weeds. So I'm just punch drunk if I think that's just a lone soldier that means nothing. This thing is scorched inside now, and the temperatures that it took to get that dense of a wood. Oh, by the way, those lines, fire doesn't do that. And so for all the leaves, some guy come out of his house just now, "Can I help you? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking at the burn patterns." "Oh, burn patterns?" I pointed at that first telephone pole. He's standing there with his daughter. He sees the big old chunk missing out of the bottom. I said, "Right over there, you see that?" "Yeah." He looks at me, I said, "Did you see it?" Well, yeah. "Would you like to know what it is, what it's from?" "You know what?" I asked, "You know what it's from?" "No." "Would you like to?" "Well, I don't have time right now." At first it was, "Yeah, I see it," and he was about to run me out of town. And I said, "Are you sure you saw it?" Well, yeah." "Do you know what it's from?" "No." "Would you like to?" "I don't have time right now." "Okay, then get the fuck out of here." They can sleep through the static. Jack Johnson had some deep meaning. They can sleep through the static. Watch it instead from the comfort of your burning beds, or you can sleep through the static. Jack Johnson knew. He said, around the sun will be the new hell someday. It's still too early to tell, some say, but it really ain't no myth at all. This is solar plasma, you guys. Neighbor wants to get pissed at me. Look at this. See this burn mark right down in the weeds? You see the weeds all around it? That's what I'm saying. It hits the big wood and leaves the little leaves and weeds. And some asshole wants to come out of his house and run me off. He deserves what he gets, you know what I'm saying? And so does everybody else that sits back and watches and goes, I think I'll just watch it instead from the comfort of my burning bed too. That seems like an inconvenience. I don't have time right now. I've got far more important things to do. I better get down the road before the asshole calls the cops. You know what I'm saying? Fuck him. I'm gonna grab some more video. There's some more things over here I want to. And when the cops show up, I'll show the cops, and they'll realize there's a higher authority than their badge, and it's calling them to do a job, and it's not the one this asshole called for. It's the one I'm asking him to help me with. There's your sign. Oh yeah, I do have another, an actual sign that says underground cable burned. I'm gonna show you where that is. In fact, I should go grab that right now. We've seen enough of this. We know what we're looking at. I mean, how many times do you need to see it, right? Yeah, standing right here, where I pointed right there when he's jumping my shit. What do you mean burn signatures? That one right there, you see? Yeah, so? Did you see it? Maybe you take another quarter second before you so and jump back in my face. Yeah, I saw it. Do you know what it's from? No. Would you like to? I ain't got time. You and everyone else, pal. May your chains rest lightly upon you, slave. Again, here's your sign, D2D. Not the Singleton Fence Company either. It's the fiber optic cable buried below sign. And right down here, I'm gonna show you a couple more that are totally burnt off, but everything in between, I'll just keep it rolling, I guess, because you can see none of these are burnt to the bottom, and you can find one up here just all alone by itself. Here we go. Here's one that's missing, completely out, top and bottom. And there's the slave's house, where I was parked trying to say, what do you think you're doing? Nothing, dude, nothing. You just go back to whatever you're doing that's so much more important. So as you can see, it burned, it didn't burn the top, it burned the middle. How does it burn the middle out of this log? That guy, he's not interested, he don't care. His daughter, she's gonna have to live in this world. He doesn't, he's gotta get to work. I'll bet she would have liked to have known what the hell's going on, but he ain't got time. Oh well, I guess it sucks to be her when your parent don't give a shit about you. I've already gone through this with another friend whose son sat there, and I'm sure his image of his dad transformed right before his eyes. When his dad said, what good would this do me to know all this? They don't be just like you. And what he meant was alienated from my friends and family who I rely on for my support system. And for him, that would be detrimental. For me, I have no, well, that's not true. But it ain't about me. The bottom line is there is a cognitive dissonance, normalcy bias, retaliatory human instinct. It's almost like that guy knew exactly what I was doing and he didn't want to get out. He wants to go about his life as if nothing ever happened, and he wants me to shut the hell up and get out of here. You know what I mean? Don't disturb him and his, you know, sliding down the mountain like talking monkeys on sticks vacation. With all this stuff about your solar plasma and the end of the world. It's not the end of my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. Well, that's what I mean when Simon Roche discusses with Owen Schroyer. We can't get everyone on board. There's gonna be some people that have to be left behind. You can't educate everyone. Some of them are gonna have to be left to die in their ignorance, and the people will perish for lack of knowledge, but some of them insist that they don't want any of it, and they don't want you going and spreading it, because they want company. They want to be confused and ignorant, and they want a bunch of confused, ignorant company. and they see someone out here documenting, informing, educating people, they say, get out of here! Turning these knuckle-dragging troglodytes into educated, enlightened people. Misery loves company, you're taking my friends! I'm sick of people saying it was vaporized, huh, Robert? Robert O'Tay, 77G Slinger. Okay, we're gonna get down the road, but one of the things you'll notice is it is isolated. This one got nothing. Well, the one on each side of it, that one disappeared in the middle. In the middle. And this one's got a little bit of burn on the bottom. So the isolated nature of it, how it just kind of skips around, there's like nothing on that one. And a little bit on that one. But that one, and then look on down the way, nothing on any of them. We'll go search for another one. That's the weird thing, they end up one completely disintegrated in the middle of all these untouched. So down there's the corner we originally started on. Moved our way down the road. We were just across the road there looking at that one that burned out the middle. And this is right across the street. Again, the fiber optic cable buried below. Ouch! Speckled burn pattern on the wood, leaving the grass unburned. Likewise here. Sun's at kind of a weird angle to be catching it, but yeah, there you go. That little knot in the middle demonstrates that the veins of the grain, draw it to these center points. And on the road we go. Okay. Clear down there where that road comes in is the corner we started on. And now what I'm going to show you is more subtle sign, but it's definitely here. The blackened wood here is the reason why this tree is tipped over, because it burned from the inside, and we'll find some subtle burn marks on the inside down there. Here's the burn marks on that piece of wood that we looked at from up above. All of the same signatures with all of the same unburnt leaves around it and uneven burn pattern on the wood. A little bit more right here. If it'll focus, there is. Okay, I don't want to waste too much time, but there is a small spot of burn right here. I'm not sure how well the lighting's able to catch it. We'll find some more. But that's the thing, these subtle small burn marks in the grass. Look at this one, under that grass right there. If you know what you're looking for, that's absolutely 100%, definitely, without a doubt, plasma fire burn signature. Because it's a piece of wood burnt to the point where that wood had to reach a certain temperature for a certain amount of time to charcoal this, to make that charred and break up and disintegrate. And it did it beneath the grass. So the temperature, the heat did not come from above, or the grass would have been burnt. See what I'm saying? Makes sense, right? So I'm going to look for some more of these small, subtle signatures. Here's some, and they're not too subtle because it's burned in a concave section out of the bottom of that. And that's the tipped over tree right there. And if you notice in here, once the sun hits the right angle, I might be able to get a better view. Yep, another 10 or 20 minutes. You'll see right in the middle of this tree. In fact, I'm going to try and reach over there. See if I can get you in there. No, need the sun to reach the right height. Here is some more of that burn signature. And I'm going to start to talk about the fire retardant oil. That's what I'll call it, the fire retardant oil that they use in these posts, including the telephone poles, that burns and boils and works as a grounding agent. That I'll get his name. The guy who says cultivate your common sense, John Knox, and A Plain Truth, Jamie Lee, have discovered and detailed and explained how this liquid works as a grounding agent and interacts with the charged ionized electricity, the plasma, and that's why you saw some of these going up like Roman candles, lighting up in the middle, going down the road. A whole line of them going down the freeway when they line the guardrail, lit up in the middle like a Roman candle, because that liquid that they use on these to prevent them from disintegrating from the weather works as a grounding agent. See if we can get that middle shot. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a line going right up the middle of the tree. So when we do catch it, I'm going to tell you what you're looking at. There's the core wood going up the middle, and an outer layer of wood, and then the bark. You can see a straight line going up the middle, the core that goes up the middle. There's a straight line, black on the left, unburnt on the right. And if you look, there's like a teardrop in the upper left corner of an unburnt teardrop shooting down and to the right. That unburnt teardrop, I'm gonna get you a little more zoom. There we go, we can see what we're talking about now. That unburnt teardrop, fire didn't do that. The reason there is a black line going up the center core wood, because it burns inside out, ground up, inside out, flameless forest fire. That's also why there's so much smoke in the air with these fires, because they do not combust. It is called combustion synthesis, field activated combustion synthesis. Just like those fence posts that burned from the middle out, not the top or bottom. It's because the particles in the middle of that piece of wood, that fence post, synthesized something like combustion. They sizzle their way and smoke and smoke and smoke, and they never combust. And just like a forest fire or a campfire, when you're blowing on it, before it combusts, it's smoking and smoking, and then once the flame hit, the smoke disappears. They use this field activated combustion synthesis to create huge smoke clouds of particles that they use downstream in another weather manipulation. It's part of the ammo they use. So this tree, guaranteed, the reason it fell is the same reason that this tree next to it has a black line on the inside, burnt, half burnt, burnt on the left, unburnt on the right. This tree will go, and I'll bet if we could climb up it, it's someone else's property, we would find plenty of more burn signatures all over, in and around. But feels a bit like being a dead horse at this point. So I'll let this guy wonder what the hell I'm doing down the road a little ways from his property. Oh, but there is a telephone pole sign here on the ground I wanted to find. So there's the things we were just looking at, and here is a piece of wood, and it is connected into the ground, and because of the lighting and the shadow, you probably won't be able to see. Oh, there you go. Anyway, there we go. So again, it's just one small burnt piece of wood, but it adds to the cumulative evidence that what's going on here isn't fire. Otherwise, it wouldn't be sitting there burnt on the upper right half and unburnt on the lower left half with unburnt leaves all around it. So just that one little tiny piece alone tells me plasma fire. But I gotta find all the rest of this in order that we can all see plasma fire when we see the small signs. Okay, so there's the tipped over tree. Now we're gonna go check out another one of these underground fiber optic cable. Got the orange warning sign on the right and the yellow one box over here on the left. A lot of these have this golden brown burn on the underside. You can see it ends right there. The lighting's not good for this shot, but it's got also the same golden brown down the front in these stripes that I showed you earlier. It's got a stripe under here, stripe under there, and one right down the front here. But what really gives it away is that. More of the charred, burned wood with the unburnt leaves all around it, unburnt weeds. Dead giveaway. But I'm going to show you how it follows the underground fiber optic cable here in a second. And the irony just gets thicker. This piece, warning, underground telephone cable. It's not just fiber optic, it's just about any kind of underground cable conducts this stuff. works as an antenna. And this was the post, another warning post. I have one at home that burned through the fiber optic plastic from Spanish Fork Canyon. I'm gonna have to throw this one with the collection, you know what I'm saying? Because there you have it. Warning, warning, danger, Will Robin. Plasma bomb, incoming firestorm. Mommy, mommy, what were you doing when the plasma storms? Oh, I don't believe in any of that stuff, honey. Oh, no. No, I'm no fool. I was too busy. I had other stuff, important stuff, adult stuff I needed to take care of. This is what I mean by the golden brown streak underneath. And that's why it seems to me like the underground fiber optic cable that has the energy directed through it has a radiating band all the way around it that reaches up and microwaves the bottom and the front of each one of these posts. You can see that one's a little bit darker on the right end than the left end. And likewise, this one's a little bit darker on the left end than the right end. So maybe there's something actually right here about in the middle. But you can definitely see there's a discoloration. And you're gonna see that same discoloration on all the telephone poles. And when you do, your mind will start to play tricks on you. But eventually you'll just have to come to the conclusion that all the knots that are darker than everything else are that way for the same reason that I've showed you that the plasma fire affects wood everywhere else. Presumably, that's also what's causing these telephone poles to look the way they do. This one doesn't happen to look that way, really, but I'll show you plenty that do. What I wanted to show you here was, ooh, there we go, there's another one. Guess what that says? I'll bet you I know what that says. It says, caution, underground fiber optic cable buried here. What do you know? So this is probably where the cable's buried, here in this trench. And that's why it radiates. And cooks this on the underside and the front side of these poles. I would take this one, but I got one at home. My very first video, you can see it on a Plain Truth 2 called Don't Underestimate the Power of the Dark Fiber. That's referring to underground fiber optic cable that's not lit up. Doesn't have energy going through.